Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is KPZ. You're here on the home of the Slightly Above Average Ship Review. And today we're continuing our series on the Average Player's Guide to Destroyering. And I've got a Tier 3 torpedo boat here, the Izukaze. Now, most Japanese ships rely on concealment and torpedoes to do damage in World of Warships Legends. Obviously, you can kill enemy ships any number of ways. Let's take a look at the ship and talk about some key stats. So hit points with our build, 9,270. Not that great. So obviously you don't want to take any more damage than you have to. Look at the reload on this main battery, 9.9 seconds. So a very lengthy reload for your main battery. Torpedoes, on the other hand, reload in just 37 seconds, do 11,657 maximum damage. They're relatively longer range at 7 kilometers. AA defense, you really don't have any, so you don't want to be spotted by aeroplanes. Maneuverability, your speed is okay, your turning circle is okay, your rudder shift is really nice at 2.7 seconds. And concealment, 4.4 on the surface, 2.3 from the air, 2 kilometers guaranteed, or when firing in smoke. But look at these other stats in the concealment there. You'll see 7 kilometer range, 4.4 concealment. That's going to give you time, a stealth launching window of 2.6 kilometers. All right, let's take a look at our commander, Reizo Tanaka. He's the one I recommend. You also have choice of Takeo Kurita. He really is meant for the Akizuki. And you've got Togo Hashiro, who I think fits in really well with any destroyer that has a torpedo reload booster. And I don't know why I'm flitting around his skill screen like that. We've also got some pay commanders here. Sano I don't really like because his base trait. Helsinger I don't like because of his base trait. Fishy's a good commander, but not in this ship. So really when we talk about Japanese destroyer commanders, the primary commander you're going to be using for most of the ships is Reizo Tanaka. Now we referenced this earlier in my other video. We've got Deng Shichang and we've got Erich Bai as our inspirations. So the base trait of Tanaka is Hull Crusher, is torpedo damage. Shichang gives you extra torpedo damage, and Shichang also gives you concealment. So Shichang works well with Bai as an inspiration and works well with Tanaka's base trait, which is why I feel he is a better choice than Jerzy Swirsky. In row 1, we chose Subsurface Venture. Now, contact is imminent, just gives you 4 knots speed. Subsurface Venture gives you 4 knots speed, a quicker reload, and you pay a penalty of a reload time of 0.9 seconds. So it went from 9 to 9.9 on the reload of your main battery. Well, you're really not going to be shooting your main battery that much. And you would never choose no-fly zone because you have really bad AA. So there's no reason to boost that. In row 2, I went with Fragile Threat. You do lose 10% hit points. You know, the people that have been around this game a while will remember this used to be a 10% concealment boost. As you can see, look at me now, it's just 6%. So there may be a point in time where you say the penalty is not worth it. And we'll see here when we switch it over, looking at the concealment, it went up 100 meters, okay, for detectability range by air and by sea. So if that's worth it or not in exchange for about 1,000 hit points, then that's a decision you got to make, 1,000 and change. You know, but for this video, we're going to run Fragile Threat. And for a lot of destroyers, I think it is a good choice. Concealment destroyers. All right, row 3, Perceptive is kind of the new meta that everybody chooses because the radio direction finding indicator of the nearest enemy ship. In the olden days, people didn't have this skill in the commander skill tree, so most people used Torpedo Safari. You know, it's debatable if you really need this for a torpedo boat because you're not going to be gunboating anybody. On alert, rudder shift time, and long range enemy fire indicator. This to me is a skill that should be in the Russian destroyer skill tree. Torpedoes far, like we talked about, a huge boost to torpedo range, and you lessen the main battery range, but we're not going to be shooting that much. So torpedoes far, it could be a valid choice. And I think for this video, we're going to select and use Torpedoes Fari. Because again, your main guns, you're not shooting long range with these Russian destroyers, or with the Japanese destroyers. The other skill, back in stock reload time, we're already getting that in row 1. Okay, from Subsurface Venture. So anyway, that's row 3. Row 4, Destroyer be destroyed. Shell grouping is the penalty. Again, you're not going to be shooting your guns that much with a 10-second reload. There's some other ships I think Smoke in the Water is a better choice, but for this destroyer, we'll go with that. In the legendary skill, we chose Unstoppable. This allows for reduced mobility with a disabled engine or rudder. Give Me Speed is very tempting, and it synchronizes with that row 4 skill. But starting off, I recommend Unstoppable for just about every destroyer there is. All right, taking a look at the flags here, we'll run the Common Battle Booster, gives us a speed boost. I only use the Rare Battle Booster on ships with 4 or more consumables. And I would not use the Epic Battle Booster because that gives you a range boost. That's really only valid for like your Russian higher tier destroyers. That's just my line of thinking when it comes to that flag. Camouflage, we don't have any other options. Sorry, I'm OCD, I have to melt this. We don't have any like dedicated camo for this ship. So the Type 1 temporary camo increases your concealment, and I would use that because you're not trying to get shot at. Now, don't get me wrong. Type 2, for me, I use that on battleships. Type 3, I use that on cruisers. Type 4, if you have a tweener boat, you could use it on that. Hunter camouflage, that's really just for German ships, allegedly. So we use Type 1 on this video, I believe. I think so. And early adopter flag is the flag of randomly assigned to Tech Tree destroyers. So that's why that's there. Because I started blowing money on this game a long time ago. All right, so are we not gonna? I think, I hate to say it, but I think I switched to Subsurface Venture for the game we're watching, and we'll know because at some point I'll call up to check the torpedo range. Maybe I didn't. I mean, I played a bunch of matches in this thing, and I don't remember if I switched it for this one or not. Maybe not. Maybe not. But anyway, the focus is not on the Izokazi in this game. The focus is just on why I think Japan is the easiest line to start out with for a new player of destroyers. And it's simply because it reduces what you have to do down to just a few simple things. You're not really worried about gunboating. You're not really worried about AA. It's distilled down to just like 3 or 4 things. You want to spot the enemy team and not get spotted yourself. You want to capture the cap circles or prevent the enemy from capturing the cap circles. And then you want to torpedo targets of opportunity. You're not trying to get into gunfights. We're not talking about shell angles or anything like that. You don't have any exotic consumables to worry about. Granted, you don't have exotic consumables generally to worry about at this level, like the FAA or sonar or anything like that. Although a few ships do have them. Here, we're down tier on this map. Trident, you can see the torpedo range. This match, I don't have Torpedo Safari loaded, but I think at the lower tiers, it doesn't really matter if you have it selected or not. I mean, it is helpful to know where the nearest enemy ship is, but when you're looking at the enemy destroyers, they have an Izokaze, same ship as us, and they have a Podvoisky. Look, if we run into the Podvoisky in open water, if he is a competent player, he's going to absolutely wreck this ship. So you don't really need an RDF indicator to know that, okay? So also you should know that if you run into the Podvoisky, you're going to have to kill him with torpedoes because you're not going to be able to kill him with your guns. All right? So here we got a target of opportunity, the Bellerophon, apparently just steaming straight ahead into the Charlie Cap. Here we spot the enemy destroyer, the Izokaze. We aren't even going to shoot at him because we're trying to remain hidden. All right? We don't want the Bellerophon to know we're over here. And so we're just going to let these torpedoes do their work here. So they're steaming towards the enemy. He has maybe about an 8-second reaction time, I want to say, to the torpedoes. 8.1 seconds, according to WoW's builds. So look, he manages to dodge those torpedoes. Okay, that's not shocking. The ship's got a relatively okay rudder shift for a battleship. But we do part of our job, and part of our job is capturing the cap circle. So we did that. That's good. And we got more torpedoes in the water towards the Bellerophon. And the enemy destroyer isn't pushing into the cap. He did change direction. He's off our starboard side now, so we moved around that island. But we're not spotted, and we do get a torpedo strike on the Bellerophon. And a second torpedo strike. All right, there's the Izakaze. He hits me pretty good and lights me on fire. I will say one thing about the Japanese destroyers. They do have a nice HE splash. But I'm just going to run away from him, and I'm going to concentrate on taking out the Bellerophon, who we've already done damage to, so I want to finish the job here. Now we'll throw up our smoke screen and jam on the brakes and hope that he won't shoot at us. And we go dark because we're out of his guaranteed detectability. And he goes dark because we sank him to the bottom of the ocean. All right, the enemy is Okaze over there. Again, you could engage in a gunfight with him if you wanted to. We're going to back up here inside of our smoke screen and launch torpedoes at him. And then we're going to shoot at him because we're not spotted. We've got the safety of the smoke screen to help us out. And we finish him off. Some kind of a kill pinch there, but that's all right. Okay, so we killed the Izakaze, we killed the Bellerophon, and we captured the Charlie Cap for our team. At this point, because this remaining ship, the Omaha, is so far away, it is really not beneficial to anyone for us to go chase him down. You're not going to win a gun battle with an Omaha in open water, okay? Unless you have the AP capability to chunk damage him, and we don't. We don't. So we're going to move on to the Bravo Cap. While we're doing that, let me give you some other quick hits from WoW's builds. All right, in terms of hit points, base hit points, the Izakaze's right in the middle of the road with 10,300. The lead ship at Tier 3 is the Barask with 11,100. HE DPM, the Izakaze is at the bottom with 45,333. Torpedo reaction time. Only the Clash Horn has a worse torpedo reaction time than the Izakaze. And again, the Izakaze is 8.1 seconds. Rudder shift time, the Izakaze is middle of the pack. Barask has the longest rudder shift with 3 seconds. Clash Horn has the shortest with 2.1 seconds. And finally, sea detectability. The G101 is the class leader with 3.3 or 5.3 kilometers. Izakaze 5.4. The leader is the Itzislav with 6.1. So I hope those stats really helped illustrate these points I'm making. You got a very concealable ship with a good rudder shift. You know, we do take a hit point penalty to increase that strength of the ship, the concealment. Your torpedoes have got a good range. They do good damage, but they are very detectable. An alert commander or an enemy ship with a good rudder shift is going to be able to mitigate some of those torpedo strikes. The Bellerophon mitigated our first salvo of 6 torpedoes, only took, I think, 1. He couldn't mitigate the second set of torpedoes because he was too close. So we used the speed of the torpedoes to our advantage. All right, just keeping the Omaha spotted. He is traversing the battlefield along with us. The Bravo Cap was already captured by my teammates, so there's nothing for me to do in the Bravo Cap. And the remainder of the enemy team is over here by the Alpha Cap. So again, we're keeping the enemy ship spotted. We're not being spotted and compromised ourselves. We're going to go in. Sorry about that. For some reason, my recording keeps freezing. We're going to go into the cap circle here, and we're going to try to engage these ships with torpedoes, although not necessarily at the same time. A strategery note, when you go into the cap circle and an enemy ship is in the cap circle, puts up that little conflict indicator, and so sometimes that gives away your position. Right now, the North Carolina doesn't have any idea where I am, or the New York. North Carolina. They're both states. All right, the New York doesn't know where I am. We're not going to give away our position until he sees the torpedoes. And only then he's going to have an indicator. Still trying to focus my teammates' fire on the Omaha to get him out of there. So for right now, we're avoiding going into the cap because we do not want to let the enemy ships know we are here. They're going to find out when they start eating our torpedoes, okay? So right now, the New York probably detected them, and the New York is going to take 1, 2, 3 torpedoes and 1 flood, and he appears to be flooding, and we're going to send just 1 salvo of 2 torpedoes towards him. You can see he's turned away, and he's moved outside of our torpedo range. Now, if we had torpedoes Farion, probably still be able to engage him with another salvo, but we don't. And so, unfortunately, we don't have that. We do have the RDF indicator, which is telling us the missing enemy ship that we can't see is somewhere behind this island. All right, so at this point, the New York is almost dead. We've been getting flooding damage the entire time. And a friendly ship secures the kill, and we will move into the Alpha Cap and begin capping it out. Now, I'm using my torpedo indicator there to gauge the heading in the direction of those 2 ships. All right, here the Wyoming is getting very close out from behind the island, so we will engage our smoke screen. Even though he spotted us for a second, we've got a good group of 4 torpedoes and a second group of 2 torpedoes headed the Wyoming's way.
Smoke screen set.
And we're just going to wait and see what happens. So he moved a little bit or sped up a little bit. We get 2 torpedo strikes from the last 2, but we get those first 2. Anyway, sorry. We got 4 torpedo strikes, and we dev struck the Wyoming. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so there we used our smoke screen to stay hidden. We used our torpedoes, again, to take out the enemy ship. Here I'm going to move out of my smoke screen. I believe right as we cap this out. Oh, I'm going to shoot. I'm going to shoot my guns at the Orion. Once you get halfway out, you can get spotted. Here again, using my torpedo indicator to tell me how far away he is. And then we're going to move back in the smoke screen. Now, you have a really long reload, but you've got a good HE splash. And you've got a reasonably good fire chance here. So don't be afraid when you're safely in a smoke screen to engage enemy ships with your guns. Here you can see the little indicator kind of in the middle, upper left of the screen. Our smoke screen is going to run out. So we left our smoke screen because it would have dissipated on its own. And then if we were caught shooting, we would have been spotted. Here we get the Orion in torpedo range again. So we're going to launch some torpedoes at him, just 2. And I don't know if I'm saving the 3rd one for another ship or not. I am saving it for the Omaha. Unfortunately, I think right after I shot those, the Omaha changed direction pretty radically. So I'm trying to manage my distance from the Orion and the Omaha. Okay? So you got to do both of those things at the same time. Again, we're going to leave the cap circle. Maybe the Omaha won't know we're over here. We do get spotted by the Orion. Our torpedoes are about to strike the Orion. They do strike the Orion. High caliber metal. And I should have shot my guns right there. But the match ended. I'm a dummy. All right. So here on a screen that you should all want to see, victory screen, just short of 100,000 damage. We did get the high caliber metal. 12 torpedo strikes in this game. So I think this game, and a couple of solo base caps. So I think this game illustrates the kind of match you want in a concealment destroyer or Japanese destroyer at low tiers. You know, you did a respectable amount of damage here. You did the most damage on your team. You have more than 10 torpedo strikes. You had 2 solo base caps. Essentially, you did your job in this destroyer. We do end up at the top of the board. However, I would say a good game starts at 2,500 base XP or above. So that is not necessarily a good game. You know, if I could have finished that ship off, maybe it would have put us over 2,500, but that did not happen, and the enemy ship got a medal as a result because he managed to eke out his life at the end of the match. Anyway, I hope this helped you out a little bit. If you are considering starting to play a destroyer, I will have other videos in the following weeks talking about starting out in a gunboat or how to play different kinds of matches, and I hope you watch and enjoy those. Thanks very much. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next video in this series.